Loneliness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't cry. It doesn't beg. It just sits quietly beside you while the world assumes you have everything. From the outside, Evelyn Carter had it all. She was 46, a self-made CEO with her name etched into glass buildings and business magazines. She commanded rooms without raising her voice. People listened when she spoke. Boards approved what she suggested. Investors trusted her instinct without question. But when the office lights shut off and the city dimmed into night, Evelyn went home to silence. No photos on the walls, no shoes by the door that weren't hers, no messages waiting on her phone that weren't work-related. She told herself that was the price of success. She told herself she preferred it this way. That story worked until the night two women walked into her life and quietly dismantled everything she believed about herself. It started with a charity initiative Evelyn didn't want to attend, a mentorship program for women re-entering the workforce after personal setbacks. It wasn't a PR stunt, at least not officially, but it still felt performative to her. She signed the checks, she approved the budgets. She didn't usually show up, but her assistant insisted. Just one evening, she said, they'd like to meet you. Evelyn agreed reluctantly, already planning her exit before the event began. That's when she saw them. Maya was the first to speak. She was 32, warm-eyed, steady, with a voice that didn't rush even when nerves flickered beneath it. She stood with calm confidence, not polished, not rehearsed, just real. Beside her stood Lena, 29, quiet, observant, the kind of woman who didn't fill a room with sound, but with presence. Her eyes tracked everything, missing nothing, and when she smiled, which wasn't often, it felt earned. They weren't interns, they weren't assistants, they weren't there to impress. They were volunteers, participants, women who had been through things life hadn't been kind about. And for reasons Evelyn couldn't explain, she couldn't stop listening. Maya talked about rebuilding, about losing her footing after caring for a sick parent, about confidence being harder to reclaim than skills, about how sometimes what women need isn't opportunity, it's permission to believe they're still worth something. Lena spoke less, but when she did, it landed. She talked about silence, about how loneliness doesn't always look sad. Sometimes it looks productive, composed, and untouchable. She talked about how being strong for too long can quietly hollow you out. Evelyn felt something tighten in her chest, not recognition, exposure. After the event, people surrounded Evelyn with polite questions and rehearsed gratitude. She answered automatically, her mind still circling the two women near the back of the room. They hadn't approached her, so she approached them. "Thank you for speaking tonight," Evelyn said, her tone professional, controlled. Maya smiled immediately. "Thank you for listening." Lena nodded once, studying her with an intensity that made Evelyn shift her weight slightly. "You didn't have to stay," Lena said softly. "Most executives leave early." Evelyn hesitated. "I wanted to hear the rest," she replied. It wasn't a lie. Coffee turned into conversation. Conversation turned into something unplanned. They didn't talk about business. They talked about books, about cities they loved, about mornings that felt too quiet and nights that felt too long. Evelyn found herself laughing, an unfamiliar sound that surprised even her. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was being evaluated or admired or feared. She felt seen. Over the following weeks, the three of them crossed paths again, then again, and again. Sometimes in group meetings, sometimes by coincidence, sometimes by choice. Maya became easy comfort, warmth, humor, grounding presence. Lena became something else entirely. She challenged Evelyn without confrontation, asked questions no one else dared to ask, looked at her like she wasn't a title, just a woman who had learned to survive alone. And that terrified Evelyn more than any hostile takeover ever had. One evening, after a long board meeting ran late, Evelyn found herself sitting across from Lena in a quiet cafe. Just the two of them. Rain pressed softly against the windows. "You don't let people get close," Lena said, not accusing, observing. Evelyn stirred her coffee. "I let people in professionally." "That's not the same thing." "No," Evelyn admitted. "It's safer." Lena's eyes softened. "Safety isn't the same as happiness." That sentence followed Evelyn home. It followed her into bed. It followed her into dreams she hadn't had in years. Maya noticed the shift before Evelyn did. "You're different lately," Maya said, smiling knowingly. "Lighter." Evelyn shrugged. "Am I?" "Yes," Maya said gently, "and scared." Evelyn didn't deny it. Because something was happening, something fragile, uncharted, and quietly dangerous. She wasn't just mentoring these women anymore. They were changing her. And somewhere between shared glances and late-night conversations, Evelyn realized the truth she'd avoided for decades. She hadn't chosen loneliness. She'd settled for it. And now, two women had walked into her life, but only one had begun to steal her heart. Evelyn noticed it first in the quiet moments. Not during meetings, not during conversations, but in the pauses. The way her attention lingered too long when Lena entered a room. The way her shoulders relaxed when Maya laughed nearby. The way silence between the three of them felt charged instead of empty. It unsettled her. She had built her entire life on structure, predictability, control, and now something subtle was shifting, something she hadn't approved, scheduled, or prepared for. It started with dinners. Nothing formal, nothing planned weeks in advance. Just, "We were thinking of grabbing something after the workshop. Would you like to join?" Evelyn always said yes. They chose small places, quiet ones. Restaurants that didn't recognize her face or her name. Places where she could sit in a corner booth and feel like a person instead of a position. Maya filled the space easily. She talked about her day, her frustrations, her small victories. She had a way of making the world feel navigable again, like problems could be handled one step at a time. Lena listened more than she spoke, but when she did speak, it was precise, thoughtful, honest in a way that felt intimate without being invasive. Evelyn found herself watching Lena's hands when she talked, the way she folded her napkin, the way she traced the rim of her glass when she was thinking. She hated that she noticed. One evening, Maya excused herself early. "Early morning tomorrow," she said, squeezing Lena's shoulder gently before turning to Evelyn. "Don't stay up too late." When the door closed behind her, the silence stretched. Not awkward, anticipatory. Evelyn cleared her throat. "She keeps us balanced." Lena smiled faintly. "She's good at that." "And you?" Evelyn asked before she could stop herself. "What keeps you balanced?" Lena didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied Evelyn with that same steady gaze that made her feel both exposed and understood. "I try not to let my life become smaller," Lena said quietly. "It's easy to shrink when you've been alone too long." Evelyn felt that land somewhere deep. They walked together after dinner. Not toward Evelyn's building, not toward Lena's apartment, just walking. City lights reflected off wet pavement. The air was cool, crisp, carrying the scent of rain and distant traffic. "I don't usually do this," Evelyn said suddenly. "Do what?" "Let people into my evenings," she replied. "My life is compartmentalized." Lena nodded. "I can tell." Evelyn glanced at her. "Is that a criticism?" "No," Lena said softly. "It's an observation. You built something impressive, but it cost you something too." They stopped walking. Not because they planned to, because neither of them continued. For a moment they stood facing each other, city noise fading into background texture. Evelyn realized how close they were. Too close for comfort, too close for safety. She stepped back. Lena noticed. "I should go," Evelyn said. Lena nodded, respectful. "Of course." But as Evelyn turned away, Lena added gently, "You don't owe anyone solitude." Evelyn didn't look back. If she did, she wasn't sure she would leave. At work, things changed. Not outwardly, not in ways anyone could accuse, but internally. Evelyn found herself distracted in meetings, thoughts drifting toward conversations that had nothing to do with quarterly projections. She caught herself smiling at messages that weren't about deadlines. She hated it. She welcomed it. She did both at once. Maya noticed. "You're quieter," she said one afternoon as they sorted materials. "Am I?" Evelyn replied. "Yes," Maya said, "but not withdrawn, just thinking." Evelyn hesitated. "You're observant." Maya smiled. "It comes with rebuilding yourself. You learn to read shifts." She studied Evelyn for a moment. "You're allowed to want more, you know." Evelyn looked sharply. "What more?" "Connection," Maya said simply. "Joy. Someone who sees you outside your role." Evelyn said nothing. Because Maya wasn't wrong. The night everything tilted, it wasn't dramatic. No confessions, no sudden realizations, just exhaustion. Evelyn invited both women to her home after a long day, the first time either of them had been there. The apartment was immaculate, too immaculate. Lena noticed immediately. "It's beautiful, but it feels unused." Evelyn exhaled slowly. "That's accurate." They sat together on the couch, wine glasses untouched on the table, city lights glowing through floor-to-ceiling windows. Maya curled her legs beneath her. "This place feels lonely." Evelyn didn't argue. She watched Lena instead. The way her gaze softened, the way she looked at Evelyn's space as if imagining how it might feel lived in. Maya eventually stood. "I should head out. Early start." Evelyn's heart raced. "Of course," she said. When the door closed behind her, Evelyn and Lena were alone again, for the second time that week, and it felt heavier. Lena didn't move closer. She didn't speak immediately. She simply met Evelyn's eyes. "This is where you stop pretending nothing's happening," Lena said quietly. "Nothing's happening." Evelyn swallowed. Lena smiled, not unkindly. "Then why are you scared?" The question lingered between them. Evelyn stood abruptly. "Because I don't know how to want something without losing control." Lena rose slowly. "Control isn't the same as safety." These words echoed, familiar now. Evelyn laughed softly, humorless. "You're good at that." "At what?" "At seeing me." Silence stretched, charged, alive. Evelyn stepped back, not because she wanted to, but because she didn't trust herself to step forward. "This has to stay careful," she said. Lena nodded. "Then we'll be careful." But neither of them believed it, because something fragile had already begun to form, and careful things usually don't survive longing. Evelyn started arriving early, not because she needed the time, but because she needed the quiet. Mornings had become the only place where her thoughts didn't collide with longing. The city outside her office windows was still waking up, streets half-lit, buildings breathing in slow rhythm. She stood there most mornings now, coffee untouched, staring out as if clarity might be hiding between the glass and the skyline. It never was. Lena noticed the change immediately. Not because Evelyn said anything, but because she stopped saying everything. The jokes softened, the eye contact shortened, the pauses grew heavier. It felt like being pushed gently away without explanation. "You've been distant," Lena said one afternoon, voice calm but direct. They were alone in a conference room. Maya was across the building, leading a workshop. The air hummed with fluorescent lights and unspoken tension. Evelyn closed her laptop. "I'm busy." Lena didn't argue. She just nodded. "That's not what I said." Evelyn looked up then, really looked, and saw something new in Lena's eyes. Hurt. Controlled. Contained. But present. Evelyn exhaled slowly. I'm trying to do this right. Right for who? Lena asked quietly. Evelyn didn't answer, because she didn't know anymore. Maya, on the other hand, was glowing. Something had shifted in her, too. Confidence returning, laughter easier, shoulders straighter. She moved through the office like someone who had found her footing again. And people noticed, including Lena. She's doing well, Lena said one evening as they packed up materials together. She is, Evelyn replied. Lena hesitated. You've been helping her. Evelyn smiled faintly. She helps herself. But you give her space too. That matters. Evelyn glanced at her. Does it bother you? The question surprised them both. Lena paused, fingers stilling over a stack of papers. No, she said carefully. It just reminds me that you don't choose lightly. Evelyn felt something tighten in her chest. The first flicker of jealousy came quietly. Not loud, not dramatic, just a moment. They were at a small gallery opening, Maya's idea. A chance to feel human again, she'd said with a grin. Evelyn stood beside Lena as Maya spoke animatedly with a woman from the exhibit, laughing, gesturing, alive in a way that felt newly earned. Evelyn felt proud. Lena felt something else. She's radiant, Lena said softly. Evelyn nodded. She deserves that. And you? Lena asked, eyes still on Maya. What do you deserve? Evelyn turned to her. Why are you asking me that now? Because I don't know where I stand anymore. The words landed harder than any accusation. Later that night, Evelyn found herself alone in her apartment again. But this time she wasn't comfortable with it. She paced. She poured wine she didn't drink. She replayed conversations until the edges blurred. She'd built walls for safety. Now they felt like punishment. The next day, everything cracked. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't dramatic. It was a meeting. A senior executive questioned Maya's role on the project. Subtle, polite, sharp. Evelyn intervened immediately. Clear, firm, decisive. The room went quiet. Afterward, Lena pulled Evelyn aside. You didn't hesitate, she said. She earned her place, Evelyn replied. I know, but do they? Evelyn stiffened. What are you implying? I'm implying that when you defend her, everyone sees it, and when you pull away from me, I feel it. There it was. Not jealousy. Truth. Evelyn's voice softened. This isn't a competition. Lena met her gaze. It doesn't feel like one. It feels like I'm losing without knowing the rules. Evelyn opened her mouth, then closed it. Because Lena wasn't wrong. Maya sensed it too. You don't look at her the same way anymore, she said quietly one evening. Evelyn blinked. I don't. You do, Maya interrupted gently. And it's okay. I just need to know where I stand. Evelyn's chest tightened. You stand with me, always. Maya smiled sadly. That's not what I asked. Silence fell between them. Maya stood. I don't need saving anymore, Evelyn. I need honesty. She left before Evelyn could respond. That night, Evelyn didn't sleep. She sat at her kitchen table, city lights blinking like distant signals, and finally admitted what she had been avoiding. She wasn't protecting anyone. She was choosing comfort over truth, and it was costing her both women, differently but equally. The confrontation came unexpectedly. Lena appeared at Evelyn's office door just before sunset. I can't keep guessing, Lena said. Evelyn stood slowly. Then don't. Then tell me, Lena pressed. What do you want? Evelyn swallowed. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, and still nothing prepared her for how exposed she felt. "I want peace," she said honestly, "and I want connection, and I don't know how to separate them anymore." Lena stepped closer, not touching. "Then choose," she said quietly, "because not choosing is still a choice." The words echoed, and for the first time, Evelyn didn't look away. The night Evelyn finally chose honesty, the city was loud. Sirens somewhere far below, traffic humming like a restless tide. The glow of office towers still lit long past business hours, as if no one inside them wanted to go home either. Evelyn stood alone in her office, jacket draped over the back of her chair, hands pressed against the glass. For years, this view had meant success, control, proof that she had made the right sacrifices. Tonight, it felt like a witness. She called Lena first. Not a message, not an email, a call. When Lena answered, her voice was steady but cautious. "Evelyn? Can you come here?" Evelyn asked. "Please." A pause. "Is Maya with you?" "No." Another pause, longer this time. "I'll be there." Maya arrived before Lena. Evelyn hadn't expected that. She stepped out of the elevator, coat still on, hair slightly windblown, eyes alert in a way that made Evelyn's chest tighten. "You asked for honesty," Maya said quietly, "so here I am." Evelyn nodded. "I owe you more than explanations. I owe you clarity." Maya studied her for a moment. "Then say it." Evelyn took a breath she felt in her ribs. "I care about you, deeply. I always will. But what we built, it's not where my heart is going." Maya closed her eyes, not in surprise, but in recognition. "I wondered when you'd admit that," she said softly. "I didn't want to hurt you," Evelyn whispered. Maya smiled faintly. "Avoiding truth hurts more." Silence settled between them, not bitter, not angry, just heavy. "I'm stronger than I was when you met me," Maya said, "and I don't need to be chosen out of guilt." She stepped forward and hugged Evelyn once, brief, sincere. "Thank you," Maya said, "for not lying anymore." Then she turned and left. Evelyn stood still long after the elevator doors closed. Lena arrived minutes later. She didn't knock, she didn't hesitate. She stepped into the office and stopped short when she saw Evelyn's face. "You look like someone who finally jumped," Lena said quietly. Evelyn let out a breath that trembled. "I did." Lena didn't move closer. "Did you survive?" "I don't know yet." They stood there, the distance between them thick with everything unsaid. "I told her," Evelyn said, "the truth." Lena's jaw tightened, not in anger, but restraint. And I'm here," Evelyn said, voice steady now, with nothing left to hide. Lena took a step forward, then another. "Do you understand what this means? For you? For me?" "Yes," Evelyn said. "It means I stop pretending my position can replace my feelings." Lena studied her carefully. "Say it." Evelyn met her gaze fully. "I want you." The words were quiet, but they shattered something final. They didn't rush, no sudden closeness, no dramatic gestures, just two women standing in a room where power had always spoken louder than desire, until now. Lena reached out slowly, fingertips brushing Evelyn's wrist. "You don't get to lead here," Lena said softly. "This has to be equal." Evelyn nodded. "I know." "Then meet me there," Lena said. Evelyn stepped forward, not as a CEO, not as someone in control, but as a woman choosing vulnerability. When Lena's hand finally settled into hers, it felt grounding, real. Not a victory, a commitment. The fallout came quickly. Whispers, side glances, carefully worded questions. Evelyn called an emergency board meeting the next morning. She didn't explain everything. She didn't need to. She announced structural changes, recused herself from certain decisions, reassigned oversight, not because she was forced to, but because she chose transparency over convenience. Some executives resisted, some watched closely. Lena stayed out of sight, exactly as planned. until one question broke through the professional noise. "Is this personal?" someone asked. Evelyn didn't flinch. "Yes," she said calmly, and handled responsibly. Silence followed, then acceptance. Not approval, but acknowledgement. It was enough. That evening, Evelyn returned home exhausted in a way she had never felt before. Not drained, earned. Lena was already there. No grand entrance, no announcement. Just sitting on the couch, shoes kicked off, reading. "You didn't wait," Evelyn said softly. Lena looked up. "You said you didn't want to come home alone anymore." Evelyn smiled. They sat together, not touching at first, just sharing space. The city homed outside. For the first time, Evelyn didn't feel watched. "I'm scared," Evelyn admitted. "Me too," Lena replied. Evelyn turned to her. "Still here?" Lena met her gaze. "I didn't choose the easy version of you." Evelyn leaned in then, not rushing, not claiming, just close enough to rest her forehead against Lena's. "Stay," Evelyn whispered. Lena smiled. "I already am." That night there were no fireworks, no dramatic turning point, just two women lying awake, talking quietly about things they had never said out loud before, what they feared, what they wanted, what they were willing to risk. Evelyn fell asleep listening to Lena's breathing, and for the first time in years, she didn't dream of losing control. She dreamt of being seen. The city didn't change because Evelyn chose love. The buildings didn't dim. The markets didn't pause. The world kept moving exactly as it always had. But Evelyn did, and that changed everything. Mornings became quieter in a different way, not empty, intentional. Evelyn still woke early, but now there was another presence in the apartment, another rhythm. Lena moved through the space like someone who belonged there, not rearranging it, not claiming it, just existing within it naturally. They learned each other slowly. Evelyn learned that Lena needed silence before coffee. Lena learned that Evelyn processed emotions best while walking. They learned how to disagree without retreating, how to sit together without filling the space. Nothing about it felt rushed. That was how Evelyn knew it was real. At work, boundaries held. Evelyn stayed professional, more disciplined than ever. Decisions were documented. Oversight was shared. Transparency wasn't performative, it was practiced. Some people watched closely. Others stopped caring once they realized nothing was being hidden. Power didn't disappear, it just stopped being misused, and that mattered. Maya returned a month later. Not for closure, she'd already done that. She returned because she wanted to. They met for coffee in a place they used to go together. Familiar, but no longer loaded. "You look different," Maya said, smiling. "So do you," Evelyn replied. Maya nodded. "I'm moving." Evelyn blinked. "Where?" "West Coast. New role, new life." She paused. "I'm glad I didn't stay stuck." Evelyn smiled softly. "Me too." There was no bitterness between them, no regret disguised as nostalgia, just respect. When Maya stood to leave, she added, "She sees you." Evelyn didn't ask who, she already knew. The first time Evelyn and Lena attended a public event together, it wasn't announced. No statements, no headlines, no spectacle. They arrived separately, left together. That was enough. Lena squeezed Evelyn's hand once as they stepped into the car. "You okay?" Lena asked. Evelyn exhaled. "Yes, for once, yes." Lena smiled. "Good, because I don't want a version of you that's constantly bracing for impact." Evelyn laughed quietly. "Neither do I." They didn't pretend it was perfect. Some nights, Evelyn struggled with guilt she hadn't earned but still carried. Some days, Lena worried about being pulled into a world that wasn't built for her. They talked about it. They didn't minimize it. They didn't weaponize it. That was the difference. One evening, months later, they sat on the balcony as the sun dipped low between buildings. Lena rested her head against Evelyn's shoulder. "Do you ever miss the quiet?" Lena asked. Evelyn thought for a moment. I miss the illusion of safety, she said honestly, but not the loneliness. Lena smiled. Good. Why? Evelyn turned. Because I didn't choose you to be an escape. I chose you to be a life. The words settled deep. Evelyn wrapped an arm around her, not possessive, not desperate, present. The realization came without drama. One morning, Evelyn caught herself setting out 2 mugs automatically. Another morning, she found herself leaving work early, not because she was overwhelmed, but because she wanted to be home. That was when she understood. She hadn't lost power. She had reclaimed herself. Months later, Evelyn stood in the same room where she had once struggled to choose. Only now, the choice wasn't heavy. It was already made. She addressed a group of women entering the mentorship program. New faces, new stories, familiar uncertainty. I used to believe success meant standing alone, she said calmly. I was wrong. She didn't name Lena. She didn't need to. Strength isn't isolation. It's knowing when to let yourself be seen. The room was quiet, not empty, listening. That night, Lena waited at home, barefoot, hair loose, dinner simmering quietly. Evelyn stepped inside and stopped. Did you have a long day? Lena asked. Evelyn exhaled. Full. Good. Come eat. Later, as they sat together, Evelyn rested her head against Lena's shoulder. You changed my life, Evelyn said softly. Lena kissed her hair. You changed your own. I just walked in. Evelyn closed her eyes, and for the first time in decades, she felt something rare and steady. Belonging. If this story moved you, even quietly, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. Love doesn't weaken strength. Vulnerability isn't failure. And choosing connection can be the bravest decision of them all. Tell us in the comments, have you ever chosen safety over love and wondered what might have been?